Welcome to a new series of Trident Talks. My name is McNaughton and I am a consultant here at Trident Search. This series will be on pre-sales leadership, so speaking to a variety of pre-sales leader in the cybersecurity space. Today I'm joined by Matthew Quinn, who is the Technical Director of Northern Europe at XM Cyber. Matthew, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Sam.
So the purpose of this series and the purpose of this episode in particular is to speak to sales engineering leaders in cybersecurity. And this episode in particular is speaking about how people can get into sales engineering, whether it be a commercial path or more of a technical path. So I thought we'd start off, Matt, by speaking about your background. So if you wouldn't mind just going into a bit of detail in terms of how you got into sales engineering and kind of what that kind of looks like now.
Yeah, no, definitely. I had a kind of natural evolution into sales engineering when I left university. So I did an IT degrey, way back in 1998, I think it was. I think it was finished in 2003. So I think it was about 2003. Kind of left with that IT degree and moved into an IT support role, which happened to be IT security. But actually at the time, I didn't really know too much about IT security. That whole idea of being a kind of subject matter expert from a tech support perspective gave me the knowledge to become a consultant. So I was then going and installing various different security tools and consultancy with the knowledge that I've got from the support role. And then the organizations that I was working for were all in channel, which then allowed me to, then start to work with those kind of sales teams a little bit more directly. And they started to use my knowledge to take me out on the road, meet customers. And that's when I became a sales engineer. And I think that, what's kind of kept me here is, again, it's you're keeping that technical knowledge and, enjoying that technical side, but you are part of that commercial team as well. And you've got that commercial understanding of the customer and dealing with lots of different clients, lots of different requirements. So, that's kind of what's typically taken me here so far.
Okay, so and then you've kind of found that balance now between that kind of commercial and technical aspects of the role, where before you were very technical kind of in your consultancy days, and now you've kind of come to a point where you've got a lot more of that commercial aspect in your role. Yeah,
definitely. I think when I've had different roles in the past, or I've had different interviews, actually, you'll often find that the hiring manager is looking for someone with a 50-50 split of kind of technical and commercial knowledge. Not in all roles, there's some technologies or, services where actually the technical part is the most important part. And actually they don't need someone who can craft a crafted opportunity or like that. But what I'm tending to see is that the sales engineer is part of that sales process, can often, take on a full sort of sales process by themselves and actually become part of the sales team, but with more of that technical mindset.
Well, I definitely agree with that, especially from a recruitment standpoint. We're seeing more and more, pre-IPO companies try and look to involve a sales engineer as much as possible through the process, whether it be from, that initial discovery call that they've been set up, whether by, an inbound or outbound lead, all the way through to the implementation, trying to keep it so it's a consistent technical person there from start to finish. I mean, that's very interesting. So would you say that's kind of, obviously you've got maybe a unique background to it, but would you kind of say that's kind of what would you kind of say is a typical background for a sales engineer to take?
Yeah, I think, I definitely see a lot of people probably around my age that have moved from being a consultant into sales engineering because it's still using that technical kind of mindset, but you get in many cases a more enjoyable, varied experience in moving into sales engineering. I also do see client success teams. So, that evolution of tech support into more of that, client success role. And those client success roles are then the subject matter experts in those ways, but they've been working with customers and understand their requirements and move into sales engineering as well. depending on the type of sort of IT security company it is, startups can often be, looking for people that don't necessarily have to have lots and lots of experience, but from a technical side, they just need to have the right kind of mindset. I think many organizations can be quite different. Some startups, their technology is so niche, they need to have a subject matter expert who is very, very technical. Whereas other startups are actually like, we're so early on in our startup. I know a few distributors, for example, that were quite new value-added distributors, and they were taking sales engineers, people that didn't have a massive technical background, and saying, right, let's make you into a sales engineer. Yeah. So it can be quite varied. I also think, sales engineering is becoming a very hot topic. I definitely say the last couple of years, I follow a lot of different people and podcasts and channels, different groups online, all around pre-sales. So what you will actually find is that, pre-sales was a role that no one had ever heard of.
Yeah.
Now people are actively seeking to change their very different career into pre-sales. Someone who has got no IT background or no background in pre-sales or sales or anything at all is saying, I hear pre-sales is a great role to get into. I want to drive my career in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people kind of similar to yourself with that technical background. They've got that really good technical foundation to their CV, but they have those commercial skills. And I think people are kind of seeing that more and more, that there is, not necessarily like that out and out commercial role, like a net new business where they're having to, knock down doors and get into businesses and get that new business. But they're able to do part of that. They've got the soft skills to converse and essentially show a product to someone and show the value of that product, but still being able to have those technical skills and being pushed in that direction. So I definitely agree that it's becoming a more prominent role in the market, and more people are kind of looking towards it. Kind of just going back on in terms of when you say about kind of companies taking different people, do you find that the market at the moment, with there being such an abundance of candidates out there, that they're being a lot more picky, a lot more companies are being a lot picky with who they go for and what requirements they're looking for in candidates?
I mean, I've been through, I joined XM Cyber a year and a half ago now, and I've gone through a few different interviews with different organizations, and each process is a little bit different, but actually, is can be quite rigorous. You can be looking at, 5 or 6 stages in an interview, and some of those stages can be very, very technical. And also, they want to understand what types of opportunities you've worked on in the past and things like that, and just successful projects that you've worked on and things like that. So yeah, it can be quite diverse. I think it's also what the security technology is doing.
Yeah.
One vendor's product may require that you are very technical in a particular area, whereas another tool, another security product or security company might not necessarily need that. A good case in question is, if you're working or looking at sort of the resellers and MSSPs often, what's beneficial to a sales engineer there is that you're more of a generalist, actually, that you know a little bit about quite a lot. But you're not necessarily a subject matter expert in everything that you do, but you understand the concept of most things, and you can bring all those things together, and you can then bring other people in to focus on various areas. Whereas in the vendor world, you do also need to have that general understanding of the ecosystem and like all the different technologies, because your technology is going to slot into a particular gap in the customer's bigger environment. But a vendor will often want you to have quite a specific set of knowledge and skills around what their particular product does.
Yeah, 100%. I think we see that more and more at the moment, that they are being super specific with what they're looking for. In terms of, for you then, when kind of you look at candidates now, or for someone trying to move into that sales engineering role, are there any foundation, whether it be qualifications or courses, or even, going as far back as, a university degree that you kind of look at and think kind of makes a candidate stand out?
Yeah, I think, I'm actually, one of relatively few sort of sales engineers I know that haven't necessarily gone down the official accreditation path. So I did the university degree, but I've done a number of sort of vendor accreditations and sort of early accreditations in my career, but I've not done, things like CISP or, those types of things. I do know a lot of people that do get into sales engineering that decide to go for something like that. I don't think it's necessarily something that an interviewer would 100% say, okay, you must have that.
Yeah.
Nor would I say that if they had two candidates that they would automatically go for the one that's got the CISP. I think interviewers are looking for the kind of those 50% technical skills, those 50% commercial skills, how you can solve challenges, how would you work with the rest of the team, how outgoing are you? Sales engineer is quite an outgoing role. It's the same sort of outgoing skills that you would expect in a more traditional sort of sales team. They want those same kind of social skills, but at the same time can back that up with technical capability as well. I also think presentation skills is very, very key. This is what I always think is very different from a consultant to a sales engineer. Is a consultant is often the value has already been sold at that point, and the consultant is there to now get into the technical details and to select that particular option or plug that particular device in or configure that particular cloud or whatever it is. Not always really selling the value, but just making sure that it's configured in the correct way. The difference between that and a sales engineer is the sales engineer has got to really demonstrate value. It's not necessarily a feature sell. You're not selling necessarily features. You're selling the way that you're going to map to the customer's requirements or the potential gaps that they've got, and actually show them, okay, this is how this solution is going to help you with those more business level problems that you've got.
Yeah. So, with in that kind of scenario, then with a sales engineer, there's probably a bit more of an impact they have within that sales process, being involved from an earlier on stage. Would you say?
Yeah, definitely. And that's a blessing and a curse, I think, in sales engineering, is that if you look at statistics, within your own business or just in general. The earlier the sales engineer is involved in an opportunity, the better qualified it is, the smoother the process. However, sales engineers are a fairly small resource, and can be quite an expensive resource as well. And so you need to use the sales engineer wisely, because if you use them throughout the whole process of a sales sales process, you're using a lot of resource all the way through. So, yeah, the ideal is to kind of have a good balance of, when do you need that sales engineer to be part of the process? How much you need them to be in those first or second calls, or can you introduce them slightly later?
And do you think that could be, whether it be a blanket approach from the company, or would you kind of do a bit more as an individual thing where you say, well, look, this is a scenario where actually we don't need the sales engineer to be on the call. This is a scenario where they can come in later, or this one they need to be on this first call straight away.
Yeah, I think it could be a mixture. I think one is that there's no template definitely for success across every business. I think a lot of businesses will sort of say, okay, here's where you should use the sales engineer, but then you work with your sales team directly and you work out kind of when's the right thing to do. So, that relationship you have with the sales team is very, very important. You need to get on with the people that you work with. You need to understand how both of you work. They need to know, things that they can do by themselves and things that they aren't comfortable to do by themselves. And you kind of work, you work together on that. So I work with my sales representative, today and every morning. for about sort of half an hour. We have a digest of what happened yesterday. We speak about what we're going to do today, and we look through our calendars and we say, okay, we've got all of these things that we're doing with different priorities. So actually, can you take that one? And I'm going to drop away and I'm going to do something different. So it changes on a day-to-day basis, and I think that's quite important, is to be very flexible. Sales engineering can be, you're not going to have the same week every single week. It's going to be very, very different on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and you touched on it there, that collaboration with your sales executive being very, close knit and kind of understanding, where one of you might thrive or where one of you might struggle a little bit more, and that's really important for you, is it?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Everyone's got a small amount of, time during the week. You're working on lots of different things. And depending on the type of company you work for, if you work in a startup or a scale up, a sales engineer is going to be doing a lot, right? You're going to be doing marketing. You're going to be doing blogs. You're going to be doing demos, intro calls, partner training, POCs, RFPs, and also improving the pre-sales process as well, actually improving that. So there's a lot of things that you're doing as a sales engineer. So you need to work very closely with your sales team to say, okay, there's a lot of activities going on here. On a day-to-day basis, where should we all spend our time? And some of these, opportunities, they're running at different speeds, and then all of a sudden, an opportunity that was, you thought was 2 or 3 weeks away is now the most urgent thing that needs to be done, and you need to be quite flexible to move that around.
Yeah, so a lot of kind of time balancing and everything like that involved in, making yourself a better sales engineer. It's not necessarily just the technical skills, but it's, that soft skills and everything like that's really, really important.
Yeah, I definitely think, that 50-50 between technical and commercial and just being, someone that someone wants to spend their time with, in person or on the call. That's a skill that not everyone has, and I'd say that's probably one of the most important skills as a sales engineer. Is you've got to be approachable, articulate. Some people have got to enjoy spending their time with you. You don't want to be someone that is just a button clicker that is just showing features and describing your product. That you need to be connecting them with them on a personal level, and also understanding the problem behind the requirement that they've given you. Again, when you get a set of requirements, where have those requirements come from? What was the challenge, or what's the problem that you've got that's actually driven those requirements? Because again, sometimes the requirement that you're given is actually not necessarily the challenge that they've got. So it's up to the sales engineer and the salesperson to dig a little bit deeper and kind of understand what that is.
Yeah, getting a full understanding instead of just taking it at first glance.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, look, I think that wraps up kind of the end of this episode. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us, Matt. Hopefully it's kind of been able to shed some light on sales engineering, and for those watching, it's kind of been able to give them a bit of insight in terms of how they can get into sales engineering and what kind of pathways they could take. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Sam.